Let's go for a ride, shall we? No real plans for this ride. We have about an hour before it should be completely dark. So I think we're just gonna head across the bridge into Minnesota and see what sort of stuff we can see. Earlier this morning I was staging up to get across this bridge up here, and there's a gentleman next to me on an old Harley with a young lady on the back, and he was trying to play cat and mouse with me as we were going up the bridge. He would go ahead of me and then go behind me, and I wasn't really paying him any attention. And then he started to get really close to me, so I gradually increased my speed. I heard his bike roar up, and I got to the point where I thought he couldn't really accelerate any harder. And then I actually used about half of my throttle and left him in my dust. I love this motorcycle. I think I've said it before on this channel, but my favorite time of day to ride is right now. Golden hour, sunset, it's beautiful. Unfortunately, in the Midwest, depending on where you ride, that is probably the most dangerous time to ride a motorcycle as well, with the way animals, particularly deer, like to behave around sunset, and just general visibility. Sun shining in really aggressively. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for cars to see you, but for the relative beauty that you see by choosing to ride at this time of day, I think it's worth it. As always, completely suited up here. When I started riding over here a number of years ago, we never really saw a lot of motorcycles. And since then, I think this area's really caught on. So this is the Elm Street Scenic Drive is what I'd call it. I don't think it's labeled in any other way. We could check on the map down here, but if my memory serves me correctly, it turns into Highway 1, like I said, up here once you start getting on the ridge. But I started riding in this area about, what would it have been? 5 or 6 years ago now. I've gotten to the point now in this area where I really know where I like to ride. I have my few favorite routes that I do, depending on how much time I have and what time of day it is. And this one here that we're about to do today is definitely up there on the list. So if any of you are watching, ever make your way out to this area, and especially if you have an adventure bike, I definitely don't want to keep this sort of stuff a secret. They're really just roads. I've talked to people before that like to keep where they ride a secret, or make people pay for guided tours or dotted lines on a map. I don't really believe in that. If you have a motorcycle and you have the means to get down here, you should definitely check out these roads, and I shouldn't be the one keeping them from you. So Elm Street up to Highway 1. Look at that, the sunset over the ridge. Beautiful. Love this climb. Great switchbacks. And we're gaining lots of altitude. Someday I'd love to have a house up here. Probably won't ever happen, but a guy can dream, right? See that down there? That's probably about 700 feet down. Maybe 1,000. The blinding continues. There, finally. I'm just around this bend now. There's a minimum maintenance road. I don't even know if it has a formal name, but it cuts back down into, I should say, river level. So down the side of the bluff again. We're gonna take that. And of all the times I've been up and down this road, I don't think I've ever seen another vehicle on it. So I know it's not very well traveled, but for some reason they continue to open it up seasonally. Travel at your own risk. This is the beauty of being on an adventure bike in this area. You get to see stuff like this. Big washboards. I definitely wouldn't recommend this road for a beginner, especially if you got a bigger bike. These roads have a lot of big stones that kind of feel marbly. So if you're running on road tires, which I am, you really gotta know the benefits of trail braking, know how to stay loose, especially when these washboards hit you, and let the bike do what it wants to do within the constraints of what's possible and staying upright. It's really about staying loose and knowing when to use the throttle or the rear brake to straighten yourself out again if things start to go sideways. Not a whole lot of front brake usage on this road would be recommended. Seen that happen before where folks hit gravel and they panic, grab a front brake, and before they know it they're on the ground. Trail braking is super beneficial, especially setting yourself coming up into corners to just kind of get a feel of how the gravel reacts with the tire. And just like that, we're down. These homes can see over the tree lines on the other side of the road, so I'm sure their view is awesome. This is the end of the line up here. There's a little sneak peek of the view one can have when they can afford to live up here. It's crazy. Doesn't even look like we're in the Midwest. Cue engine braking montage for the next 3 minutes. We'll see you at the bottom. Still want to stay respectful while we're going past these houses and driveways, but then once we hit the actual climb, we'll speed things up a bit. conveniently, we've looped back to the end of Highway 1. There you have it. We'll see you next week.